So very good morning to all of you and welcome to this event. I must compliment Dr. Garg for continuously organizing this wonderful events. The main issues in the energy sector, whether it is new emerging fuels or coal or petroleum crude oil, I think all aspects are discussed here. So it's not an easy thing to organize such conference here, but compliments to Dr. Garg and his team for organizing. So once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Good morning. Yeah. So when you participate in an energy conference, you must exhibit some energy there. What I'll do is, I thought it would be appropriate to discuss about the current situation that the world is facing with respect to the conflicts, the Middle East war, and how it is impacting the energy segment, and particularly with respect to the country, India, how we are placed. So I think we all know, and we have learned over a period of time that the kind of business environment in the world is being defined by certain coined words, like we used to call VUCA sometime, which is VUCA shortly, VUCA, which is volatile, uncertain, it is ambiguous. This is how the word was described some time back. Then a new word came in that was coined, that was known as RUPT, R-U-P-T. Again, trying to define, which means RUPT, rapid, unpredictable, paradoxal, or tangled. This is how the people in the management gurus try to define it. Sometime later, another word was coined that was known as Bani. And Bani was brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So over a period of time, the world has been in a very chaotic and very uncertain times, and people, business leaders have tried to define it, management gurus have tried to define it. The present war has added much more new dimensions to the uncertainty that is there in the world, and particularly in the energy sector. And I'm sure that sometime now a new word will be coined to really define how you really exactly see the world today. So what is going to happen is that the energy, we know it, and in the country we have faced the issues there. I'll run through some of the important aspects of this thing related to energy. Can I use this here? Yeah. So if you see the impact of this, UNICEF has come out with an analysis that about 1.1 million people, including 400,000 children, have been displaced from their homes. They had to flee. That's the impact. How the humanity is getting impacted on that. The bloodshed, upheaval has exposed children to malnutrition, traumatic events, which is impacting now their emotional regulations, mental health, to a great extent, actually. IMF has come out with an analysis very recently that this, if it continues for some more time, would impact the GDP of the growth rate of the world by 2%. It will come down. When we see the energy infrastructure being damaged in the war, it will take long time to come back to its original thing. So we are in for a much longer impact of the energy here. The costs have gone up, fuel shortages are there, the disruption of the normal lives, economic activity, all are widely actually impacted on that. So going into further, yeah. This has been the biggest global energy disruption the world has faced. Middle East has destroyed lives, livelihood, we have seen this. both energy importers as also the exporters are impacted. Poorer nations particularly have been largely very badly impacted on that. 20% of the oil, 30% of LNG, 30% of LPG normally pass through the Hormuz, that straits there. And India is more or less 90% dependent on the LPG imports from the Hormuz. So the countries are looking at alternate sources of supply. The high prices of energy, shipping costs have gone up, the insurance risks have gone up, and the risk is being factored into the high prices. On the other hand, the Middle East is also having a lot of problems in terms of higher food prices, shortage of food, fertilizer prices, and overall the financial problems on that. So there is a major impact on global economy, resulting in higher prices and slower growth. But how long it's going to last? That's the question that everybody is having in mind on that. So if you see the kind of transit of the ships through the Hormuz, if you see, from March 1st, there's a dramatic reduction on this. This is the data collected by the EIA here, which shows there on the 28th onwards. So if the kind of this reduction is there, all those countries, particularly the Asian countries, are very, very badly impacted on that. Even now, the ships are only trickling. On a negotiated terms, there may be slightly increase, but it has not come back to its normal this thing. So, strains from higher import bills, large and sudden taxation on the income, this is going to be there. Asia manufacturing sector raising production costs. So it's not just the impact of the energy that we source, the prices have gone up and the availability is a problem. Then all sectors of the industry are impacted by that. There's a cascading impact on that. So squeeze on the purchasing power is there, pressure on balance of payment of some of the currencies there. Italy and UK exposed to disruption due to large gas dependence they have there. This is again a problem. Spain and France, they are better placed because they have a large portion of their primary energy coming from nuclear and renewables. We see that, how the infrastructure is coming back to normal operations, it's going to take long time. And there is uncertainty in terms of availability of equipment, people who would really repair, come back on the normal operations on that. A 10% increase in the energy prices for a year would increase global inflation by 40 basis points. That's again a study recently come out. So I mean all kinds of analysis shows that globally all countries are going to be very adversely impacted, and Asian countries particularly, poor nations particularly, they are going to be impacted on that. So the focus is coming on some other sources of energy like nuclear. China, we see 23 nuclear plants operating. Vietnam, Philippines, as also India are now focusing on options of the nuclear and other this thing. Some Asian countries are re-embracing the coal-fired power projects as well. So, I mean, it's just not impacting the other thing. The commitments made for the energy transitions, the timeline, the emissions, they are also going to be very badly impacted on this. Prices. Just see the surge in prices, oil and gas prices surge there. The LNG prices, the LNG which used to be at around $10 plus $10, $11, are more than doubled. The companies in the country who have purchased over $20 a million BTU kind of prices. This is unsustainable for long term. So I think the prices is going to impact not just the consumption as an energy source, but a lot of products out of the energy sources are made, like petrochemicals are there, the energy fuel, costs for the other sectors. All the prices, it has a spiral impact, and all other industrial sectors are going to be impacted on that. So there is a disruption chain that is happening, and war is reshaping the supply chain of non-energy and critical items. I think even in the Middle East, the alignment of the countries geopolitically and otherwise also is going to be perhaps reassessed and will be realigned on that. Higher costs due to rerouting of the tankers, ships, longer delivery times, high insurance costs, air traffic disruptions as well is impacted there. Low-income countries are at higher risks. Food accounts to 36% of the consumption in some of the poor developing countries. That's going to be impacted there. One of the critical items, when we have been just talking about energy, crude oil, gas, LNG, LPG, but there are critical items for various other sectors like helium. Helium production is going to be impacted, which is a very critical chemical for some of the areas in the medical particularly, as also on the space programs on that. Fertilizer movement, 30% of the urea also used to move through the Hormuz, that is impacted on that. And India as a country is also impacting very, very adversely. So risk of higher inflation and lower growth is what is slated to be there in coming times. How much is India going to be impacted, that we have to see. We are definitely much better placed than many other countries because of our own coal availability. We almost had no power breakdown here. And look at our neighbors there, which were about 70–75% of their power coming from gas-based. They were all in trouble, actually. So how long is this going to be there? There is a very interesting study done by a company, which I thought I'll share with you. So on the impact on the energy transition, focus on the meeting immediate energy needs is the priority right now for all the countries, So they are forgetting about the energy transition to a cleaner energy source. Just is how do you meet the present, overcome the present crisis, Short-term increase focus has come back on reliance on the fossil fuels again on that. EIA, they have the reserves, crude oil reserves, they have released 400 million barrels to help the global countries on that. Europe faces high energy insecurity. India and China face higher inflationary pressures due to this higher oil costs. A major challenge is the infrastructure damage, which would need much more longer time to come back. For example, the LNG that used to come from India, we are much better based under some of the information that has come up. The committed trains of LNG are not impacted by the war, and they can be put back on operations if the normalcy come back, maybe in the point of few weeks' time on that. Of course, how the wells can be reactivated and produced the normal, and how they will achieve that, of course, is a challenge. But then, as far as the facilities, liquefaction facilities are concerned, committed to India supply are in place on that. So while urgent decarbonization is a necessary thing and is a process, is a trend globally for long-term security, the economic constraints due to the conflict may restrict the financial capability of the countries to really move ahead on the energy transition to a cleaner energy. So those commitments may be further delayed on that. One of the very interesting study done by a leading company, and we have a representative from that company speaking in our conference also, Rystad here. The CEO had come there. They had predicted that in about 6 weeks' time, there would be a ceasefire. So I think some of the assumptions that they had worked out on the circumstances and making a holistic analysis, it has moved to more or less in the same direction. Now, how do we move ahead of ceasefire, that is 6 weeks from the start of this thing is a very interesting study. How do they do it? I don't know. They say that it's a game theory, they apply on this. But then the next challenge is that how do you move from the ceasefire to a total stoppage of the war there. But we are very clear that there would be a prolonged strain and vulnerability of the country's economic disruptions. Focus is coming only on the military build-ups, defense, this thing. We see all countries spending going up much quicker on that. There's a lot of demand destruction of the energy, particularly oil and gas. So to really recreate that demand, it's going to take longer time there. So I think from the demand, from supply, all aspects of the energy sector, energy markets are actually, we are seeing it. We see that in 6 weeks' time, they had predicted that resolution talks would happen, so that's happening. And we only feel that in coming time, there would be some resolution, and we see that normalcy comes in. What is the learning from these war? Particularly the most impacted segment in the country was the LPG supply. So what we are proposing, and I'm going to share this in the next coal gasification aspect, is the production of DME, dimethyl ether, through the coal gasification process. And this is a substitute, an ideal substitute for LPG. It can not only be blended with the LPG, but can be used exclusively as LPG without any change in the cylinders, operating process, or even the gas stoves that we use in households. DME production costs are also favorable. We have our own domestic raw material coal there. So we strongly recommend that the government should really look at creating this option of production of DME amongst other chemicals as well, like methanol, which we import, and use this as an option to supplement the requirement. So there are many things that learning has come up, but this is one thing which I thought is important to share with you. There are many things that we can discuss about, and learnings we can shortlist what India should be doing besides what the global impact is there. And I think how to use energy, how do we store energy, how much energy as a strategic storage country should have. All this has become very, very important now, and I'm sure there are several actions that the government is taking to overcome such kind of shocks, energy shocks, disruptions global on that. So I thought it would be important and would set some of the points in context for discussion in this conference. Thank you very much.